So we get a new cosmetics shop. Now, before we read any more about this, okay, if you go back to before they added the collector's shop, the one where you get the new card or the ultimate variant and you can pin a card, there was a lot of people who were already asking for the ability to pin variants in the shop. Like so even before they added this, the token shop, right? A lot of people were already asking for the ability to pin these variants. Now, we all know why they don't in general. It's the whole FOMO aspect. I mean, you get a variant, you might not see them again for months. They want you to buy it now. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's still no option to pin. What I was going to get at is a lot of us ask for the ability to pin these. We get the FOMO aspect. So I'm not asking for the ability to pin every single one of these, but you should be able to have one pinned. Like if somebody's at 1100 gold and they really want this, let them pin it. Let them pin one of these. And then the next day when this gets shuffled, this would obviously come to the first slot, and then you would just fill in the other ones. You would just have to replace it with the other 7 variants. Um, so when I started to read this, when I first I was like, more change? Are we finally going to get the ability to pin in the normal variant shop? No, no, of course not. Of course not, but it's okay. Cosmetic shop. Here, players can find cosmetics that aren't variants. They can expect to find avatars and emotes available for gold. As Jack says in chat right now, I'm not spending 2,200 gold on for an emote. Facts. Well said. When 1,200 gold for a variant is already absurd to me. That is 17 US dollars for a variant in a digital only video game from a company that has sunsetted 2 digital microtransaction based games abruptly already. So 2,200 gold is, I don't even know, it's probably what, 30 ish some dollars? Absurd. Absurd. Matchy match. My sweet, sweet Alioth, he says. Okay, bonus boosters section. I've never used this, so I have no idea what this is. Okay, it says it works the same way, but you get, wait for it, bonus boosters. You no longer have to worry about having enough boosters. Just upgrade your cards as you usually would with credits. And the missing, wasn't that already there? Anywho, new location. They've added the, we can now do more emotes at locations and on opponents' cards. That's fire. As somebody who was asking to be able to emote a location for over a year before they eventually added it, I like that. But until they give me emotes that more accurately tell, like, I just got lucky as hell, or oh come on, you got lucky as hell. Um, this only does so much for me, right? Now this is always cool. I talk about this all the time. I One of the things I do respect with Second Dinner, it's hard not to, is all right, we'll try. Um, is how great they are at not only nowadays and for a while now, when they add a new card, they usually have incredible audio and visual effects right out of the jump. Um, and I've talked about, I think, a lot of reasons why they're doing it so well from cards from the jump is because they don't want to have to go back and do this like they have essentially done in every patch for months. I mean, going back, the Morbius getting his animations incredible. More recently, Deadpool and Moon Girl are really dope. Her little bubble gun and things like that. We all might remember about 7-ish months ago, they had several patches in a row where they gave voice lines to prominent 6 cost cards. We got Heimdall, Doom, Arnim Zola, um, Odin. Sure, I'm missing a few others, but like those are some like notable characters in the Marvel pantheon. All got voice lines. Zola is really not that notable in the Marvel pantheon, not like Doom and Odin, but you get it. Heimdall, Doom, Odin, they all got sick voice lines that they added after the fact. So people might remember a couple weeks ago they actually added a little bit of effects already for Legion. So I'm curious to see what else they added, because they actually, he got a touch up a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. Leader, never used the card, so cool. I love Mirage, so that's dope. Hazmat, gross. Um, I wonder if it's gonna be kind of like mini man thing. Patriot, that's cool. Hood and Demon and Colson, and then we get Wakanda. Two locations are gonna get audio and or visual effects. Balance updates. We got a handful of changes for this patch, but we expect them to be fairly impactful and perhaps even require some follow up in the OTA next week. Time will tell. Let's dive in. Alioth. So instead of destroying cards, remove the text from all unrevealed cards. Now, off the rip, this is like conflicting, right? It's like obviously the original version of Alioth was incredibly stupid, oppressive, terrible, all the bad word, broken, OP, whatever you want to say. But the second iteration of him, the one that we just came off of, while obviously when you sit there and if you're any kind of a decent snap player, if you do not have initiative on turn 6 and you're sitting there crunching the numbers and should I stay, should I go now, um you think this is one of the thoughts. Yeah, Alioth there. But what if he hasn't drawn Alioth? What if he had, and you talk yourself through it. And essentially, you only have yourself to blame when you stay in and you get farted on. Now, that doesn't make it any less shitty to be farted on. Just like Loki, whatever you do to the changes, just conceptually, it kind of sucks to lose to your own cards. It kind of sucks to just see one card just wipe away all of your plays. Um, at least with like say Shang-Chi, everyone knows I've, had all of my thoughts about Shang-Chi for a year and a half. But at least you've got to have the card on the board at least a little bit usually, right? So Alioth is a very tricky card, but I do feel like this might be a little too much. Because now, well, I guess okay, Leech. What I was gonna get to is like this is kind of like Leech, but you have to guess right. It's like a Leech Guardian. But Leech is only on reveal now, whereas this is ongoing, on reveal, passive. Everything gets hit, right? Like the cool thing is, if somebody, but here's the thing: somebody like goes to play the Red Skull on turn 6, and I have initiative, and I play Alioth, and it was already a 6/15 Red Skull. That's still, I'm still getting 15 dropped on my hammered on my face, right? So it's like, I mean, the 6/8 does help, I guess, compensate. We'll see what they say, but I do feel like this is a little too harsh. As somebody who hates getting farted on, but since release, Alioth has been an important but polarizing. That's putting it mildly. Card in the snap metagame. It's been hugely effective in creating more tension on turn 6, but the in-game effect can also be really frustrating. Losing your cards completely, no questions asked, is very powerful. We're sensitive to that, so as we monitored Alioth, we've also thought about other ways we can implement the card. With the turn 6 metagame fairly settled these days, that's a kind of a weird like that they're trying to say a lot, but I don't think they say anything with that. Like unless you're like jacked into the untapped data and you're like fucking Morpheus in the Matrix, what does this even mean? Because if they're trying to imply that people aren't doing big dumps on turn 6 using Sarah and trying to do like Silver Surfer, Shaw, Killmonger, the Nova thing, that's not, I mean, I'm not saying that deck's meta, but it's in a great spot, right? Um yeah, I'm not like, are they just saying that people that just feels like a weird blanket statement. Fairly settled these days. And like fairly settled, well, anyways, it felt like the time was ripe to freshen up the purple cloud with the new effect. They wanted to say fart so bad. Our goal here is to keep a fairly similar role, but to introduce more meaningful counterplay to the effect. We expect the biggest difference will happen with stuff like Magneto now being able to defeat Alioth either way. Sometimes I really, especially lately, I feel like they're not nearly as tapped in as we would like them to be. Okay, when you read this through here, I don't think there's a snap player on planet Earth who thinks of Magneto, if their mind even starts to wonder on what cards will this affect, how could this play out? For example, one of my first ones was Silver Surfer. Um, uh, was like a Silver Surfer kind of thing, right? Or like, the things you're trying hazmat, that kind of. Anyways, um, I don't think there's a Snap player on planet Earth who even if they could have listed 100 cards that this might make them think about, Magneto certainly wouldn't have been in the top 100. Well, what is this? Feels out of touch. Like no one was thinking of a Magneto dynamic here. And then what does it mean either way? Like Magneto in the past wouldn't have pulled Alioth if I missed. I'm trying to play Alioth. Opponent plays Magneto. I miss my Alioth. I'm so lost, dude. This one might be one of the worst they've ever done. I guess Magneto maybe is a big play for an early game and not like Hulk and stuff, but like this is just word salad. Like it literally, again, it's like it's not. I don't want to say okay. We all know what this could mean. The thing is, it doesn't say nearly what they would hope because most people have no idea. In general, the vast majority of the game probably wouldn't know exactly what the meta game. Not they will know what a meta game is, not what the meta game is currently. Um, by that I mean like the top 2 or 3 things in any game at any given time, right? And then fairly settled, very ubiquitous. Magneto, Alioth, interesting. Okay, Zabu. Jack said this at the beginning of the stream. Zabu dead. They gave him the beast treatment. He just gets 1 point of power. But for only 1 turn. We're aware that Zabu is taking a huge hit. But hear us out. The last year, the game has shifted to revolve more and more around Zabu's interaction with 4 cost cards and their matchups. Right now, Zabu is probably at an all-time low, but the impact is still very real. And 4 cost cards that don't have strong synergy with Zabu are at a disadvantage. We've been analyzing the data to better understand exactly what this has done to the metagame and what we might want to adjust, but Zabu is really clouding those measures. So we've decided to do something unusual here and temporarily rework this card into a state that we believe is weak enough to shift the way. Okay, so now I know that this sucks and in a gameplay sense in a lot of ways, but I actually think this might be one of the more tapped in and like analytically insightful things that I've heard from them in a while. They're basically saying like we're gonna make this like popular card not as good, and we know that, but we think it will provide us Sorry, hold on, I got a phone call. Will provide us vastly more data over the next few weeks and months, which will serve better for the ideally will serve us all better in the long run. Hold on, I got a phone call. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Chavez got Chavez for real, for real. They hate ongoing effects all of a sudden. Watch them change null to on reveal. um, Kind of like a blob. Like when you play him, he will go ahead and have the power of all that's destroyed. But let's say hypothetically something is destroyed after he's played, he wouldn't necessarily gain that unless you played Odin again. They would nerf Lady Deathstrike 1 week. They buffed her, didn't they? 1 week before Spotlight. Isn't this a buff? I haven't even got there yet. Calm down. Spoilers, man. Um, Back to what I was saying. So I think this is actually insightful. It's good. People, this is gonna be like a little hot take, and people are gonna definitely not appreciate this in the short term. But as somebody who works in analytics, this is actually insightful, and it's actually a sharp idea. They're like, we'll go. Like, I bet you they wanted to not even do this. Like, if they get the best data out of this change, you wouldn't reduce them at all. But they probably understood that that is too fundamental of a change to do. So we'll just do it for 1 turn. That way we can still get better analysis from, say, plays on, assuming you play Zabu on 2, they'll get better data on turns 4, 5, and 6, right? Um, and I appreciate that. We don't think that White Queen is suddenly good or anything. Again, in weird example. We expect 4 cost as a group to get weaker, and decks that can still cheat. Weird devs using words like that in their own game, but I get it. Using cards like Ravona, Hope, Wave, etc., to be stronger, as well as 4 cost cards that naturally have big stats like Cold Obsidian. We may account for that a little with subsequent OTAs, but we're also expecting to make a larger set of impactful changes later this year. So this change is really to help us vet that work, and we also don't expect Zabu to remain in this state permanently. Yep, yep. Um, that's going back to the analysis and thing. Okay, Sandman. Boom. So he gets 3 points of power, and his ability stays the same. Oh god. So as somebody who doesn't have Corvus, I one of probably my least favorite deck to go against over the last couple weeks, really, has been that like Corvus, Electro, Sandman ramp deck. And um yeah. Oh, it's an on reveal. Next turn. Okay, I didn't read it all the way. Hold on. Oh man, I got real nervous. I got a real pit in my stomach. Like already the deck that I hated the most just got a 3 extra power and okay, never mind. It's so they're really ever since they did it with Beast first, right? The next turn thing. Um I'm talking about with changes to pre-existing cards. Beast, Time Stone, now Zabu, and Sandman. Interesting. Like Mobius, Luke Cage, and Professor X, Sandman is the kind of tech card we want to be careful with. If Sandman is too popular, Snap is just a less fun game due to the permanence of that ongoing effect. Agreed. So we deliberately or make him a lower cost so people erroneously play him earlier, giving us more time to enchantress him. That's the problem. So we'll deliberately because so people might remember when Spider-Man was back when he did his like webbing and you couldn't play him, right? I think he was a 4 cost card. When I think briefly they made him a 5 cost card before eventually bringing him down to 3. Is that right? Anyways, I remember one of the dynamics that I thought at that time when they were tweaking Spider-Man was at least in one of the iterations, the thing was people, less great players, would play him like prematurely. And then when they changed him, I think to the 5 cost, I was like, well, damn, now people won't accidentally play him early, and that changes the dynamic. I don't want him to be played on turn 5. Um, so anywho, uh, why did I bring that up? Oh, because to me, if they're worried about that, the permanence, it's you make them actually cheaper, and you adjust his stat line. That way, players erroneously play him prematurely and weaken enchantress it, etc., etc. Problem is him on 5 being played on 5. You're not going to use your 1 card on 6 as an enchantress to shut that down, right? Um, so to be more niche. However, the low power necessary for that balance has made it so that Sandman's often too weak to consider playing even in metagames where the effect would be strong. We're trying a different tact here and switching to a temporary effect that can pack more power because it doesn't warp the game as much, playing more like a turn 5 tech card than a turn 4 build around. What up? Sorry. Lady Deathstrike, Swag, what's up, Adeline? Um and one final thing on the Sandman thing. You know what's interesting? So people might remember Old Wave essentially acted like the best Sandman this game has probably ever seen. Um, but I guess that's a bold statement, but she definitely acted like Sandman. Because she would also bring 1 cost or 2 cost, whatever. It would bring them up to 4 cost. So people would use her on turn 5 to shut down a Sarah deck or a bounce deck or whatever, right? They obviously fixed that. So the Sandman has been in he's been the lone limiter, I guess would be the word. So now Sandman is doing what he's always kind of should have done, and that's to the deliberately to have a tech card to shut down late game dumps if like Sarah decks or whatever bounces are meta. All right, my girl, my sweet, sweet flame, my muse, Lady Deathstrike. Oh, I don't remember how to pronounce it, but Eid Mubarak, Adeline? Eid Mubarak? All right, this change. Okay, so she gets 3 extra power, and instead of doing less power than her, which now changes it dynamic a little bit because one, not that I would ever really use this, but one of the things you could do is like Shuri into her. Now she's killing things 7 or lower, almost like a gladiator. Um, but multiple cards, also friendly fireable. So they given her more power, but now it's setting. So like basically, this is what she would have done previously, anyways, by default, right? Um, Only in cases where you maybe Nico into her, Forge into her, or Shuri into her, were you destroying higher than this, right? Or I get in random location specific spots, but we get it. What they did with this is to make it essentially the default interaction. Still, like they still wanted to only kill the cards that it was intended to kill from the jump. Um, but I guess giving her more weight since you are having to deal with your own friendly fire in a lot of cases. So I'm actually interested to play this out. I'm kind of interested. This change looks fairly similar to Sandman, but it's different in some nuances ways. Does it look similar? One's next turn? Just because 5-4 to 5-7? Like, we're smarter than that, second dinner. I mean, how many meatheads do you think play the game that are like, oh, 5-4, 5-7, same, same? What? There's nothing. Anyways, Lady Deathstrike was built around scaling with power to provide an appealing goal for players. But that just hasn't worked out. When Deathstrike is good, has she ever really been good? Like she's never been bad, I would say, but it's often just because the base effect is useful, and those times are few and far between. True. Most of the time, the card is simply weak, and investing and buffing it is a trap. We've decided to trade in the Dream here with the goal of creating a more what? The Dream to me was never Deathstrike becoming 16 power or something and destroying the whole lane. The dream with her is killing cards like Cerebro, Dracula, Iron Man, Mystique, Wong, right? Like that, dude. To me, it's like I will read something that I'm like, that's good, that's really insightful, I like that, and then it's like two things that are like, what are they? Let me smoke what they're smoking. We've decided to trade in the dream here with the goal of creating a more consistently useful card that players have to fear more meaningfully, not exclusively in decks trying to do some gimmicks with her. I mean, the rest of that sentence isn't terrible, but they've lost me. That to me, the dream is never that. The dream is consistently being able to use her to tech out of like a Dracula, an Iron Man, etc. The last pronunciation, uh, what did I say? She's a tech. She's like a tech card now. I Mubarak. I wanted the dream. I Mubarak. This is interesting. Speaking of Dracula and the discard package, we all know that I guess the vision has always been with Strong Guy is in like a discard kind of package, or I guess in a lot of low cost cards where you can dump everything. But as soon as they added Modoc last year, I mean that's been the vision, right? Um, and they've tried adjusting his power. We're loosening the restriction on his power buff. The last numbers change was made with we made was something of an experiment to see if we thought we could get strong guys. Aren't they all experiments? But ultimately, combining poorly with both Apocalypse and your normal draw each turn is proven too heavy. Let's see how it goes. So now they made it to where he still gets his +6, but you have to have one or fewer cards. Now this is interesting, intriguing, especially in like that the discard deck that I did play that didn't have Hela. The only 6 cost card in it was Apocalypse, is because now in ideally you have him down. Um, on turn, like let's say 6, you can you or sorry, ideally you're leaving only Apocalypse in your hand for your Dracula, which you've always done. But now when that Apocalypse respawns, Strong Guy still procs, which is kind of scary because I've already, and again I've used it, but the Dracula thing is already scary. Let's just Dracula, when he discards at the end, he gives himself 4 if he hits Apocalypse. That's assuming in this case. He's getting +4 there. Morbius is getting 2. That's +6. Collector potentially is getting +1. Meek is getting +1. That's +8 already that package was providing you. On something that occurred after the game that your opponent can't do anything against. More reason that's why the dream should have been the dream. And it costs no extra energy. It's happening for free. So now you're adding the +8 and then the +6. So we're getting an extra 14 potentially. Well, not really. Never mind. I'm gonna walk that back a little bit because there's still other packages that could potentially utilize this, not just discard. Potentially several packages that could use this, right? And then 2, because of that, it's hard to like really keep too much OP-ness on the Dracula Apocalypse thing because that's just one of them. So we'll see how that plays out. They just removed the word original here because it's redundant. Pixie shuffles the cost of all cards. They added the word base here. Why didn't you just take the word original from here? I'm kidding. And some bug fixes. So a beefy patch, a lot to get into. I definitely want to try Lady Deathstrike ASAP, Strong Guy ASAP, and a couple different things. And check out where was the other thing? I thought I saw something about cards. Like custom cards doing something. They like made a further iteration on custom cards. I could have sworn I read that somewhere. Was I tripping? All right, let me catch up. What was? We saw it briefly. 2,200 gold. Oh my God! It is the Leo. It's that Leo, dude. No. Hold on. Here's a different question though. As far as we know, are these still just in the pool? So anyone, I mean, you could still randomly pull this from your collector's reserve, right? Or are these only acquirable here? Like, I feel like I've seen this before, right? Wait, hold on. Are emotes even acquirable that way? I feel like I'm on collection level 14K. I should know that, but whoa! Oh yeah, they disabled it. That's still not back, huh? 2,200 bucks again. 1,200 gold is 17 US dollars. 2,200 gold is essentially 30 bucks, give or take. I mean, plainest way to, I mean, you could buy this and get extra, but I mean, that's about the closest. It's about 32-ish dollars. $32 emote. Where have we gone? I blame you, FIFA Ultimate Team. I blame you, Fortnite. Although, in fairness, Fortnite years ago reduced their prices across the board, and once they started to get in that dispute with Google and Apple, talking out yesterday. But $32, you are on crazy bath salts. You are on crazy bath salts.